Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today we are taking a look at the upcoming changes and quality of life initiative. Well, we're looking at the details of the quality of life initiative that were discussed on stream on July 18th, 2025. And this was discussed on a live stream between BAM 1500 and Winged Racer. Now, quick shout out here, because I know, especially from my channel, the community that I have, there's a lot of comments about the quality of wargaming live streams, and this is what I have to say about it. BAM 1500 is the guy the community want to see more of. I know he's not been on stream as much recently, and I know he has his reasons why he's not been on stream recently, but the community wants more of him because he stays on topic, he talks about the game with passion, he knows exactly what's going on with the game, and he wants to pay attention and listen to the community, and he makes that very, very clear to us on stream. He is one of the few people we see on stream where when we watch the live stream, we the community come away feeling this is the guy, this is our guy right here. He's clearly as passionate about this game as we are. He loves it as much as we do. We want more of him because he's a guy we can connect to. He's a guy that we can vibe with. That's what we want. So, wargaming, please, I'd like to see more of BAM 1500. I know he's a very busy guy, but for me anyway, player sentiment, community connectivity, getting everyone feeling like there's less of a disparity between wargaming and the player base, he's the guy that can do that. He's the guy that creates that vibe, and quite honestly, that's exactly what I think the game needs. Okay, so let's jump into these upcoming changes and the quality of life initiative. So not all of this stuff is coming to the game on July 22nd. Some of it is, some of it isn't, but we'll get into the details of that later. And in addition to these points here on their website, I have made notes, and basically my notes are direct quotes from their live stream that add more detail, flesh out the bones a little bit. So you know, I've tried to extract every single bit of information that Wargaming gave us on Friday, between their Friday stream and this article. So they've got 3 points here. But before we get into the points, I do want to caveat everything by pointing out that wargaming is very, very good at putting the line in the water with the hook, with the bait, and hooking us. They are very, very good at doing that. And there's 2 examples of when they've done that. For years, the player base wanted health bars in the game. And the feedback from the community was, PC have got that. We want exactly what PC have got. No additions, no adjustments, no changes, no reworks. Copy paste what they've got. That is exactly what we want. Okay, all right. Wargaming go away, and they come back to us and they say, "Hey guys, we're adding health bars." And the community goes, "Oh yes, finally, fantastic, great. We're adding health bars. You've listened to us. Oh, the Wargaming are listening to us. I feel so much better about Wargaming, the developer of my favorite game. I feel like they're changing. Oh, finally they're listening." Wargaming, yeah, we listened. We're adding health bars. Here you go. We're adding them with percentages. And the community's like, "You what? No. We asked for what PC had. Exactly the same. No changes, no adjustments, no alterations. Exactly what PC had. Yeah." No. We're adding it with percentages. Why? What? That's not what we asked for. Percentages don't mean anything. And unless you're a hyper nerd for this game and you can look at the team listing and go, "Yep, those 15 tanks, they've got this number of hit points each because I've memorized them. I can do the quick arithmetic in my head. Yep, their team has got a total of 56,430 hit points. Excellent. I can work out what percentages are of that." Unless you're that person, percentages mean nothing. And even, you know, I'm assuming Wargaming's listening to this, so it means you're an employee. which means you're paid. So anyone that works, we can use this as an example. Your boss doesn't tell you, or your pay packet at every month, your pay slip doesn't say 100%, does it? It says, oh, this month you've earned 3,000, 2,500. It tells you exactly what you've earned. When you go for a job interview, you don't say, oh, what's the salary? Yeah, the salary is 100%. Okay, good, yeah, great. 100% of what? Oh, we won't tell you that. No, we won't tell you exactly what. Percentages don't mean anything unless you first know what they represent. Is it 100% of 60,000? 100% of 50,000? So when it's one versus 3 at the end of the game, I've got 4% hit points left, they've got 7. How much is that? Unless I quickly do the mental arithmetic in my head and go, right, 4%, I've got 500 hit points left, so that means that 4% is 500. They've got 7% left, which means that's double me, but 7% is a little bit less, so 8% would be double, so double would be 1,000, but that's 7%, so I now need to work out what's unless you can do the mental arithmetic in your head, these numbers don't mean anything, and all the players want is, we want this. So that right there, guys, is the reason why I say, do not get your hopes up about any of this. Do not get it in your head that when Wargaming say, oh, they're going to add more fun, like it says there, that they're going to add more fun exactly how you think it should be done. It's not going to happen like that. Chances are there's something in this that's going to be disappointing. That was one example. The other example is they have a habit of fixing things and then breaking it. So remember, Era 3 was a complete circus at one point. They fixed that and then immediately broke Era 2. So again, be prepared for this fixing stuff, but then something else will break if they don't change their strategy. So that's enough of that now. Let's get into the details. So, quality of battles. What do they have to say? On stream, we want to increase average match times to better encourage strategic gameplay and find ways to reduce frustration and bring back more fun that matches of World of Tanks Modern Armor is about. There's a fair bit in there. They want to increase average match times. Good. They want to reduce frustration. And here's an example of what I mean by don't get your hopes up. Because, in my opinion, if they want to reduce my frustration, they can do whatever they need to do to the game to ensure that, first of all, my shots go where I aim them, which they currently don't in all cases, and that my shots all land inside my aim reticle. Those are two very valid things that you would want to add to the game that would reduce your frustration. I think we can all agree on that. But at no point in this article or their live stream do Wargaming address those issues. They just don't. So that's an example of Wargaming saying they want to reduce frustration, but then not actually addressing the things that causes frustration. So I'm not dissing anything that's in this list. All of this stuff is good. But to some extent, again, I do feel like it misses the mark. Wargaming are very good, like with the health bars, they're very good at getting they can be so close and yet so far at the same time. So, the second point here, tank balance. Tank balance updates. We see major benefits into incentivizing what is important about tech tree progress. This is true for World War II as well as Cold War. We are re-leveling the disparity between premium and tech tree vehicles in the game. Now, there's a lot more said on this point because this was a big topic, but a caveat here is at the moment they're rebalancing World War II tech trees. But here's the extra information that they passed on during the stream relating to the tank balancing topic. So we have to talk about premium tank balance changes. We are reviewing the impact of premium tanks that are overperformers or are deemed toxic to gameplay or community sentiment. We are planning balance changes where needed to level the playing field. Like we said before, we need to level the disparity between tech tree tanks as well as our premium tanks. For tank balance changes, we're not looking at a single data point for any one of these changes. We're compiling everything together because we want to make sure that it's not strictly about stats. We want to make sure that the players, what you guys are asking for, what you believe is the problem, what you believe needs to be improved, is seriously put into the consideration of what we are addressing on premium tanks. Now, a lot was said. That's a lot right there. And this links back to what I said at the start. This is why the community wants more of BAM 1500. Because he is, and I know this for a fact from knowing him personally and talking to him, he genuinely does mean this. I know that for a fact. He genuinely means this stuff, and he is the guy that will listen. Other people at Wargaming won't listen, but this guy does. This is the lead game designer, and I know for a fact he means every word of what he's just said here. Now, he is one small part of a bigger machine, and if the rest of the machine decides that what he is, his direction or what he wants, it's not in the benefit of the company. For example, listening to the community isn't the best way of squeezing as much money out of people as possible, then what he wants isn't going to happen. But I know for a fact this guy is legit. So, tank balance. They want to reduce frustration, add more fun. Okay. And he mentioned specifically that Wargaming know that there are tanks that are called overperformers and are deemed toxic to gameplay or community sentiment. Now, this is where something I said to them just before I was removed from the program becomes relevant. What I said to them was, if you keep going the way you're going, you're going to get more of the same. 6 months ago, or whenever it was, I think it was, I can't remember now, but it was, I remember late last year, I said to them, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get more of the same. And this, for anyone, if you haven't played Far Cry 3, go play it. There's an excellent segment in there where one of the main villains says, have I ever told you the definition of insanity?
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
Now, what Wargaming does is they get stuck in this cycle. They get stuck in this cycle of fixing the game. They fixed Era 3, and then they proceeded to break something else. And then in the process of breaking something else, they realize, the game isn't fun. People are frustrated. We want people to enjoy the game more. We have overperforming tech tree. We've got overperforming premiums. We have premiums that are deemed toxic. We need to fix all this stuff. So they fix it. It's exactly what this entire article is about. They then go fix it. And the cycle continues. They'll then release a little bit more power creep, a little bit more power creep, a little bit more. And then they get to this point where it's like, people aren't enjoying the game. Oh no. The games aren't fun. The games are too quick. Oh no. How did we get here? Well, you got here because you haven't changed. You're doing the same thing over and over again, and then, coming to the community saying that you've got quality of life changes to make. Well, yeah, you do have quality of life changes to make because the decisions that you've been making have led us to a place where this really basic stuff is necessary. How about this, all right? You can either carry on doing what you've always done, which is, not listen to the community when, a new premium is released and within the first 2 games of playing it, someone says, yeah, this tank is toxic. Only for then 6 months later you to release a live stream where you say, yeah, these tanks are toxic. Like, oh, really? Are they? Are they now? If only someone had told you that 6 months ago, huh? Right. How about this? How about changing the way you do stuff? Okay? How about changing so that if those that play the game a lot, which the majority of the community do, the community play the game more than Wargaming does, so the community's got a better idea of what is and isn't bad. I mean, we'll get onto it later on, but the map Ardennes, within the first week, the majority of the community knew this isn't a good map for Cold War. And then, again, later on in the live stream, we'll cover that, but the Weasel 1, the ELC, within the first 2 games of both those tanks, I knew, no, these tanks are not good. These are toxic. And here we are, months later, Wargaming going on stream saying they're overperformers or they're deemed toxic to gameplay or community sentiment. We told you this months ago. We told you that this is what was happening. But instead of listening, you make the community sit through months and months of nonsense, bullshit, matches where our marks of excellence drop by 0.5% because the game is over within 2.5 minutes because the enemy team just drove to the cap and capped out. You'll put us through months and months and months of this instead of just listening to us within the first week and going, right, what we've added isn't great, let's just remove it straight away before we ruin the balance of the game completely, and which leads to frustration, no fun, and again, to quote what they've said here, they want players to enjoy the game. Okay, the changes are being introduced because we want players to enjoy the game. So players aren't enjoying the game, players are not thinking it's fun, players are frustrated. Right, how about listening to us the minute we say something? If a premium is toxic and we figure it out within days, get rid of it. Take it away, balance it. If a map is not suitable, take it away. If it leads to frustration, take it away immediately. We'll see what they do, guys. We'll see what they do. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Gameplay balance. What do they have to say about this? So, planning a rework of loadout customization options, adding a greater number of meaningful choices and tactics into the game, and exploring ways to mitigate steamroll matches. Okay, they do cover exactly what that means a little bit later on this topic here. Terrain handling for Cold War. We'll get to that in just a little bit. So, scroll down. Balance changes to tech trees and premium tanks. They do talk about a lot of this. It's not coming with this the next week's update. It's coming with the new season on July 29th. But even though there are 120 tanks plus, it is World War II mode. So, not great for Cold War players, but for World War II players, the Turan is mentioned and the AVRE is mentioned, which again, two pay-to-win tanks, especially the AVRE. That is just a pay-to-win tank if you paid for it. I think they gave that one out for free, which it's confusing. Anyway, terrain handling for Cold War mode. This is an important one. So, this is not for the entirety of Cold War. This is just for Era 2 and 3. And this is a 1-week test going from the 22nd to the 28th of July. And it's for heavy tanks and tank destroyers only on these specific maps. So not all of the maps, but just these maps. So this is Fisherman's Bay, Alamein, Swamp, Pearl River, Severogorsk, Desful, Cowbang, Mannheim, Fredvang, Nebelberg, Breathe, Azure Coast, Vineyards, Karelia, Siegfried Line, Dukla Pass, Kaunas, and Safe Haven. What they're doing is they're increasing the terrain resistance on certain parts of the map so they can slow down tank destroyers and heavy tanks. What they said on stream was that if you're on a mud road or a concrete road or a paved road, you're not going to lose any of your terrain resistance. But if you go off-road, so into field, into bog, into sand, anything like that, your terrain resistance will increase. And the point that they made about this specific test is that these changes are not about making the gameplay realistic, they are about enhancing the gameplay experience. So, if you want realism, don't play this. Well, if you wanted realism, you shouldn't be playing this game anyway. If you want realism, go play War Thunder. Go play a different armor simulator. World of Tanks has always been about an arcade gameplay style, so the realism conversation has no place, so don't even bother going down that road. What they're doing is they're introducing a test to terrain resistance to bring vehicles in line with the balancing mechanic that's always been in this game. And that is the iron triangle. So if you don't know what the iron triangle is, picture a triangle. At the top you've got firepower, and it's no particular order, it doesn't matter. I'll put at the top firepower, bottom right is armor, bottom left is armor, firepower and maneuverability. Typically, especially for World War II period tanks, you can have two of the three. I say World War II tanks because they didn't have the technology of that in that time, not the technology that we have now. But that triangle is how the tanks are balanced. So, for example, armor and firepower, but no maneuverability. We'll talk about the mouse, for example. So, good gun, great armor, slow as Christmas. The Leopard 1, maneuverable, good gun, no armor. That's how balance is achieved in this game, and that's how Wargaming themselves detail balance in their own game. So on screen they have tips that show up on screen, and in those tips, I don't have them, but in those tips they say, oh, this is what a medium should be doing, this is what a heavy should be doing. But in Cold War especially, you read those tips and you think that isn't how it plays out in your game. What you're saying is correct, but that's not how your game is. In Era 3 especially, heavies are just as fast as light tanks. So the heavy role isn't defined very well, the light tank role isn't defined very well, and I say defined, not defined, from a traditional World of Tanks point of view. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to fit Cold War into the more traditional World of Tanks balancing system. So heavy tanks are slower, have armor and good guns. Mediums are a bit faster, have slightly less armor and good guns. Light tanks are fast, have no armor, but sometimes and decent firepower. So that's what they're trying to do with this test. They're trying to introduce balance to areas of the game where balance has been lacking. So details here. It's a week test only. It's for eras 2 and 3 only, and only on these maps. So difficult terrain such as dirt, mud, and sand, etc. Stuff like that. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to avoid the grouping of tanks, the sort of lemming train sheep herd mindset of players. They're trying to get away from that kind of play style, which I think personally is a good thing. Alright, moving on to the player performative matchmaking. I think this is quite good. So what the matchmaker will do, and this is coming in the July 29th season, so again not next week, it will consider both a player's account win rate and the win rate in that specific vehicle. So if you have if you are very, very good at playing the Leopard 1A5, then your skill level will be matched with somebody else, I assume, on the enemy team with a similar skill level in a similar tank, in a medium. Might be a different type of medium. That's what I assume is happening here. So they're trying to balance the team so that player skill actually matters. We scroll on down. They talk about they're coming up with ideas for how to improve the player experience, and a couple of ideas they've had is making Sixth Sense standard to every crew and enhanced target info standard to every tank. So you get an extra skill slot and you get an extra equipment slot. This is what they're trying to do. So I'm assuming what this would do would open up a skill slot and equipment slot so that the equipment and skills that are used less have a chance to be used more, because at the moment a lot of my crews are just like, for a medium I'll just copy and paste the same crew into the same, because it's a medium, it's or a heavy or a light tank or whatever it might be. It's very rare do I have specific crews for specific tanks. So they're trying to add variety here. They're trying to, I suppose they're trying to spice things up a little bit. Okay, maps. This is where we can circle back to maps. Maps and base capture rules. So I'll read exactly what they said on stream. We are looking at removing maps not viable for Cold War rotation. What I mean by that is specifically maps that we see generally having short map times because they are smaller in general, or the layout of the map itself certainly does not lend itself to the gameplay that we want to deliver. Base captures may be changing. We are looking into adding a delay to when players can actively start capturing a base. A quick example, a base cannot start any sort of capturing until maybe 3 minutes into the match, and then the standard base capturing time can begin. And yes, we know there are certain maps, and this is a direct quote from Bam on the stream, I can see it called out in the chat right now, Ardennes being a map that ends too quickly due to base captures. So finally, we have acknowledgement from Wargaming that Ardennes is not a suitable map for Cold War. And here we go. We're back to the you can do more of the same or you can change conversation with Wargaming. So we are looking at removing maps not viable to Cold War rotation. Within the first week of Ardennes being released, and I think I've already said this, the player base, the community, realised Ardennes is not suitable. We realised that within a week, a couple of days maybe, because you increase the rotation of a map when it comes in. We realised within days that this was a terrible map. Now, you can either do what you've always done, which is force us to play this map for months, which, you know, if we were to scroll back up to the top here, you're interested, or you say you're interested in reducing frustration, adding more fun, and you want players to enjoy your game. Okay. If that's genuinely what you're interested in doing, how about listening to the players when we say this map is not suitable immediately? As soon as we told you, Ardennes, this is not a good map, get rid of it. Just gone. Listen to us. And furthermore, not just that, how about investing in a little bit more research? I don't know what's going on with the super test. Maybe the super test did tell you this or not, and you just ignored them. I have no idea. But you're looking at removing maps not viable to Cold War rotation. Why did you not notice that before you released it? How is it that the community can work out that something is or isn't broken within hours of its release, but you apparently are incapable of figuring this out on your own? How are we here? How is it that the community worked out Ardennes was terrible but Wargaming didn't? And only for them now to acknowledge maps that are not viable. Yeah, we told you it wasn't viable months ago. Within a couple of games testing the ELC, I knew it was a toxic tank. Within a couple of games of playing the Weasel 1, I knew it was a toxic tank. Within a couple of games of people playing the first T249, they knew it was terrible. A toxic vehicle, sorry. The Turan, the AVRE, all of this stuff. The AVRE has been in the game for over 2 years, and now they're talking about adjusting it. Why are we here? Why is it still like this, Wargaming? And again, you can either do the same thing, you can either repeat what you've been doing over and over and over again, having these cycles where the community doesn't feel heard, only for you to waste our time and come back months later and saying, oh yeah, that tank is toxic, isn't it? Yeah. Or that map, yeah, Ardennes, it's not very good, is it? Like, hello? We told you this. Like, are you even there? Are you even listening? This is why I said at the start we want more of BAM. Because that guy listens. I know that guy listens. And I know that guy listens because I've had a sit down one-to-one with him at Tankfest. I know he listens. Anyway. There was more mentioned during the stream, and we'll cover those now. So, a couple of bits. Well, one thing they haven't mentioned here, I don't think they've mentioned it, is they talked about some tanks, some of the tanks that have the auto siege mode are going to transition to manual siege mode, and I got quite interested at this point because the entire Cold War Japanese line has the auto siege mode, and in my opinion it makes the line borderline unplayable because I can look places where the gun can't aim, the gun will start aiming at things that I'm not looking at, and it's just a bloody nightmare. And personally, I would love it if that siege mode was manual, because I can activate it, deactivate it. That would be great. Although from memory, I don't even know if that would fix it, because I think the siege mode tanks have wonky, wobbly guns anyway. So anyway, that's a totally separate topic, but yeah, the siege mode in this game really needs some looking at because it's just wibbly wobbly all over the place. So for now, that is everything that they talked about on their stream. So there's a lot here. There's a lot to look forward to. There's some good stuff. There's some, well, for some of you there might not be. There might be some not so good stuff. But the key takeaway here is that they want to reduce frustration, they want to add more fun, they want their players to enjoy their game. Those are the key takeaways. So my feedback to Wargaming is, okay, well, if you mean what you say, if you really mean this, you can start by changing the way that you approach the game and the community. Because the reason people are frustrated, the reason people are not having fun, the reason people are not enjoying the game is because you've been doing what you've been doing up until this point. So your actions so far have led you to frustration, lack of fun, and lack of enjoyment. So if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get more of the same. It's time to change. Simple as that. Alright guys, that is all I've got for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave it a like. If not, a dislike, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.